It was a calm Sunday evening in the quiet Lincolnshire village of Burgh-la-Marsh. Inside a small workshop, a thin trail of smoke began to rise, slowly filling the room, turning the air thick and deadly. Somewhere in the darkness, a man gasped for breath as the heat circled around him like a tightening fist. Outside, a woman's desperate cries shattered the evening stillness, but her voice carried only a fraction of the truth. What began as a routine emergency call would soon unravel into one of the most disturbing cases the village had ever seen. 46-year-old carpenter David Twig was well known locally for his craftsmanship. He and his fiancée, 43-year-old Julie Dixon, had spent 15 years building a life together. Friends described them as steady, committed, and inseparable. But on March 13th, 2011, that bond came to a tragic end. That afternoon, emergency responders received a frantic call from Julie. Her voice shook as she claimed she and David had been inside their workshop when thick smoke suddenly began filling the space, pointing them toward where David was still trapped. Although the building was large, the fire seemed strangely confined to the back area, filling the room with suffocating smoke, but not spreading far. Following Julie's directions, firefighters broke in and found David collapsed near the doorway, barely conscious. Despite their efforts, his lungs were too damaged, yet something didn't feel right. David had no known enemies. Locals described him as gentle, patient, and always willing to help others. Investigators found no signs of robbery. Nothing had been taken, and the tools in the workshop, worth thousands, remained untouched. Julie, once released from the hospital, tearfully repeated her story. 2 young men in dark clothing and masks had burst in, shouted at them, and set the fire. She said she had escaped their grasp and saw them fleeing across the property. But as investigators dug deeper, inconsistencies began to surface. Julie's clothing was tested for DNA. Nothing. The door to the shed had been locked from the outside. The key was missing, later found discarded on a nearby property. And the fire? It had been deliberately set using petrol. Yet, the container used to start the fire was nowhere to be found. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source, the local petrol station. Staff mentioned that Julie had started redirecting their mail to the station weeks earlier, picking it up herself. This raised immediate suspicion. When detectives examined the couple's finances, the picture became clearer. The joinery business was collapsing under massive, hidden debts. Bills had gone unpaid for months, and Julie had told David nothing. She intercepted letters, hid overdue notices, and pretended everything was fine. The more investigators studied Julie's story, the more it began to fall apart. Forensics found petrol traces on her clothing, not in a random splash pattern, but in a way that indicated she had been near the ignition point. Her injuries were too minor for someone who claimed to have been trapped in thick smoke. Then, CCTV from the petrol station revealed the final blow. Julie had purchased petrol shortly before the fire. When confronted, she changed her story. She now claimed she and David had made a mutual decision to end their lives together due to financial pressure. She admitted striking the match, but insisted David had wanted to die. But this new version also collapsed under scrutiny. Why was the door locked from the outside? Why was David kneeling as though fighting for air, not embracing death? Why did Julie wait before calling for help? Investigators were convinced. David wanted to live. Julie wanted him gone. Music. A full search of the home uncovered the most chilling evidence yet. On David's computer, detectives found internet searches made from Julie's account. Best way to poison someone. What substance doesn't show in an autopsy? This was no accident. No panic. No split-second decision. It was planned. Julie was charged with murder. During the trial, she changed her account yet again, claiming David had begged her to help him die. But her lies couldn't stand against the evidence. The truth was brutal. Julie feared her financial deceit was about to be exposed. The business, registered in David's name, was collapsing. Debt collectors were closing in. Rather than confess, she removed the one person who trusted her most. Before calling David's parents, who had supported her for months after their son's death, cut all ties. She had deceived them, robbed them of their child, and destroyed their lives. As one of David's friends said, "No one deserves to die like that. I'll never forget it for as long as I live." Music. Thanks for watching Blind Crime. From hidden motives to shocking truths, we expose the darkest criminal stories from across the UK. Like, comment, and subscribe for more real investigations. Only on Blind Crime.